So, it is time to take a look at the more DPS focused supercarriers. I will start with the Nyx. I would say this is one of the scariest ships that you can encounter in the game. Depending on the build, of course, but the Nyx is generally accepted as the king of DPS. With the right nano core and with the right builds, you can get close to 1,000,000 DPS on this thing. I think the record is about 880,000 DPS, which is what you would get if you were to use the offense heavy fighters. Of course, that DPS will not be that good on Supercapitals, but it definitely will do a lot of damage to the big ships. Statistics wise and stat wise, the ship is roughly the same, has a bonus on the light and heavy fighter damage, which is obviously to be expected coming from a Nyx. Primarily a armor tank, but in some instances you might be able to get a shield tank on the ship, but I usually go for an armor tank since it does have a bonus on armor repairs, plates and shield extenders. Technically you can make a active armor tank build for this ship, which I did in the past. Now, the defense disruption burst projectors, they are what make this ship truly lethal. It has a bonus on the module, and I actually used to think that it increases damage by 45%, but it just increases the damage application that you're already doing. So yeah, if that was giving a 50% bonus to damage, this thing would have definitely break 2,000,000 DPS without much of a problem. Now, today I'll be using the offense heavy fighters. I haven't been using them so far, I believe, and I think it's time to check their performance out. They are the fighters with the most DPS, with the most damage. Of course, they're a little bit slow, and they are not good to be used against the smaller ships, but they will work really well against capitals. And this is going to be the classic DPS build. Has one firepower booster and 3 bursts, since the downside of 4 bursts is quite noticeable. However, a 4th burst could actually be interesting. And the heavy fighter siege Hangar. This is the new module that's been added a couple weeks ago. The module does enhance the overall super carrier structure, makes the thing more durable, and I haven't noticed any significant impact on the DPS. I mean, it doesn't have any extra damage bonus, only some extra armor shield structure. The reload time on the fighters has been reduced, and the warp capacitor is minus 90%, which, you know, is interesting. But yeah, this is the module, or should I say the rig, that you should have on your Supercapital, since after all it's new and you should be using it. I also love how the auto-fit just added 1 fighter in the fighter dues. It didn't add all 6 of them. I have to do that manually. Oh, and let me just quickly add the offense fighters. Now, again, the most annoying part about any fighter-based or drone-based weapon system in the game is the reload, or should I say, when you have to change the fighters or drones. It used to be much worse, and I said that maybe 1,000,000 times by now, but it used to be worse. It's still not perfect, of course, but yeah, this is the most annoying part of fitting a drone-based ship. Loading the actual fighters or drones can take a while, but I do expect a significant increase in the overall DPS if you compare the offense fighters versus the normal prototype ones. And a little fun fact, I think a couple months ago, a long time ago actually at this moment, I was jumped by a Nyx with 5 dreadnoughts, and the Nyx did use offense fighters, offense cyclops, my apologies. And it wasn't able to pop my ship. That's because it didn't apply all the damage, and of course I have a lot of tank on my ships. So yeah, if you plan to jump or drop this ship on sub-capitals, don't use heavy fighters, use light fighters. They will be applying the damage and you will still have a lot of DPS. You do have, I think, double the DPS of a normal carrier with a super carrier, since most of them have a bonus on light fighters as well. When it comes to the drone, or should I say when it comes to the implants, the bombard tactic is definitely the implant that I would go for a Supercapital. The aerospace is nice, but the bombard tactic is where it's at. That is still the most overpowered, the scariest, the nastiest implant in the game. And on a Nyx you can get almost 1,000,000 DPS with the bombard if you have a maxed out nanocore, offense drones, offense fighters. And if you go for a DPS build, yeah, you can definitely get close to 1,000,000 DPS with the Nyx. Since the bombard does technically triple your total DPS, if you have a base amount of, let's say, 300,000 DPS, then yeah, you will have about 900,000 DPS, close to 1,000,000. It is definitely possible to get that number on a Nyx. If you put a lot of care into the ship, yeah, you can definitely get close to 1,000,000 DPS on a single Nyx. And just because of the implant, since the implant does triple the DPS output. The tank, well, I mean, 131.9 thousand DPS, 37 million hit points is the overall tank. Now, I said this before, I am not a fan of a build like this, and today I'm mostly looking at the DPS, not really looking at the tank or, you know. The previous Supercapitals were the tanky ones. These things now are for DPS. Doesn't mean that you can't make a tanky Nyx, you can, easily. It's just that it has so much DPS, would be a waste not to play around with that. But yeah, I'm not a fan of a glass build like this. If I were to fly a Nyx, it would definitely be very tanky, tanked through the roof. But if I ever get a Supercapital, it's not going to be a Nyx, it will be a Wyvern, because you can make that thing tank a Nyx without any boosters on, with only a passive tank. So if I ever get a Supercapital, it would be a Wyvern, and it would be very, very tanky. Anyway, let's quickly take. I added a 5th damage mod just for fun, but we all know 5 damage mods are definitely overkill, and that's not going to. Yeah, 133,000 DPS. Very good. Which is okay. I mean, this is sustained DPS with the aerospace tactic implant, or should I say with the bombard tactic implant. You can use the aerospace on the Nyx, but I feel like the bombard will give you a lot more, like, it just works on the Nyx, I would say, a little bit better than the aerospace, since that burst that you get from the aerospace is just nasty. It is really nasty. But the aerospace tactic implant does give you stable DPS, and it is definitely usable. But my recommendation is, if you already have a Supercapital, go for the bombard tactic. It's definitely the you will definitely notice a huge, like, DPS kick when the bombard kicks in. I'm not saying for no reason that bombard tactic is the most overpowered implant in the game. I use it myself. Although I don't use it on a Supercapital, since I don't have a Supercapital, but it works wonders on the Dominix, works wonders on any drone-based ship. It will do wonders with a Supercapital as well. 182,000 DPS we have with the aerospace. Now the good thing is the sustainability of the DPS. With the aerospace you get sustained DPS.
Docking request accepted.
In some cases that's a good thing, in some cases it might actually be lack of DPS, it is important to know when and where to change the implant and when to use it and when to use the other implant. That's a very important thing. Now, I talked about the light fighters, and the Supercapitals can hold 12 light fighters per tube. And you can use offense fighters, you can use the air superiority fighters. I mean, any light fighter will get the job done. The air superiority might work much better versus smaller targets like frigates, cruisers, stuff like that, while the ordinary light fighters can be used against pretty much battleships, battlecruisers, cruisers. If you have the right build and skills, it can also be used against frigates. But I always say, always carry as many types of fighters or drones that you can, because you never know when you will need them. And on a super capital that costs like 1.5 trillion, you might as well fill the fighter bay with all sorts of fighters, ranging from air superiority to heavy ones, because at one point you will need all of them. So yeah, better to be prepared. And of course, don't use the glass build that I'm using. Again, I don't like the build. I'm just testing out the DPS. My Nyx would be tanky, or at least make a balance between tank and DPS. That also works. After all, you do have 4 combat rig slots and 5 engineering rig slots, so might as well make the thing tank. After all, a glass ship will definitely go down much faster than a tanked up ship. Speaking from my personal experience. And it's still funny when I see so many, like 99.9% of super carriers that I've seen lost have had a glass build. The tanky ones, they don't go down easily. The glass ones, yeah, they melt, as any glass ship usually does. Not only capitals, but subcapitals as well.
Destination reached.
And I just realized, I haven't been paying much attention to the scenery a lot. I love this planet, this eclipsed planet. I'm in the shadow of the planet. I love the graphics of the game. And speaking of the graphics, maybe you will notice, maybe not. Maybe you will notice the increased frame rate. I managed to get the game to run 60 plus FPS, so hopefully that has an effect. Hopefully you can see the game run smoother now.
Warp drive active.
I mean, I really hope that's the case. I really tried to just an experiment to see if it will have a difference, and I would say it does have a difference. I do see a difference. It's much smoother than before, that's for sure. That's, yeah, a little experiment that I am doing. So let's take the Nyx out for a little ride and let's see. I mean, how much have the Supercapitals been changed since the original launch? Well, the new module is definitely a big difference. I mean, not the new module, but the new rig. I keep messing it up. The new rig, the new hangar bay, does increase the durability, and while it's more suitable for the tanky ones, you can definitely take advantage of that on any type build that you have, whether it's a glass or a tanked super capital. It will have an effect on both. Of course, I would say a much better effect on the tanky super capital, and I would actually say a much better effect on the shield tank super capitals because of that shield recharge. Now, they have had a pretty crazy recharge since the very start, and since then a lot of other ships have received about a very similar buff to the passive shield regeneration, but that regeneration is mostly noticeable on the super capitals right now, since they have a lot of shield. The peak recharge is at about 20-25%, and that's where you will notice the recharge kicking in on the Wyvern, for example. So that new module definitely, that new rig definitely enhanced the Wyvern a lot more than it enhanced the Eon, for example, or the Hell. Hell is a shield tank, Supercapital, but it lacks the resistance and it lacks the shield volume of the Wyvern. So tank-wise, the Wyvern is definitely still top end. The new rig has improved the tank on the Wyvern significantly. Of course, I mean, you do also get the armor increase, which the Eon definitely benefits from, but you cannot passively regenerate armor. That's the problem. It's still pretty good though. I mean, 15% extra armor, I would say that's pretty good. Always good to have more chunk, and you can definitely make a very tanky Eon. But the Wyvern is more equipped to run solo as well. Even though these ships are obviously not solo ships, you should not be using a Supercapital solo. They're ships designed for alliance, for large scale combat, for coalitions. But a Wyvern can definitely hold on its own for a while. That's the main difference between the Supercapitals. The Wyvern can hold on its own, doesn't really need that many force auxiliaries. The Eon, for example, Hell and this thing here will need force auxiliaries to keep them alive, while the Wyvern can, in most cases, just do it on its own, since it can, I think, passively tank like I think I should push the limit to a 300,000 DPS, since with the last build that I've done, I didn't record it, but I made 30 million shield hit point with 95% average resistance. I think that can tank about 300,000 DPS passively without having to use any boosters. And I have 2 boosters on that ship, and it's capacitor stable, so you can definitely make that thing to withstand an insane amount of damage, which is what the Wyvern is. And I think when they launch Titans this August, hopefully, the Leviathan will probably take the crown of the tankiest ship in the whole game, and it will probably remain the tankiest ship in the whole game. Either the Leviathan or the Avatar, one of these two will have something going on for them. We will see about the Doomsday stats, and I know all of these ships have their different Doomsdays and stuff like that, but I think tank-wise the Leviathan will beat the tankiest ship in the game. And it's pretty close. I mean, 2 months from now, maybe even before, who knows. I mean, it's middle of June now, and a big update is definitely maybe next week, actually. I would say we will get there next week or the week after. Should be a pretty sizable update, pretty notable update. And there was also something that was brought to my attention, basically like a scam or a lie about something involving like officer modules. I've asked multiple people who, let's say, are close to the developers, and they called it BS. It is BS. I will ask again though, maybe there is something, but 9 out of 10 people that I asked about what's the officer stuff all about said it's a scam, it's fake. But there might be a event coming up, potentially. I mean, it's been a while since we had officer stuff in the game, so I can see them having a event like that, maybe even adding something new, I don't know, but I will have to ask again to see what the sources have to say. But to my knowledge, nothing is. I mean, if I find out something, I mean, if I can share, I'll share, but from my knowledge at the moment, I don't know anything about that. There's nothing pointing towards that. And there are some aspects that I look into when it comes to new stuff, and so far, nothing. I would actually say we might see some new ships very soon, but that's just a guess. I mean, we keep getting new ships, so I'm just saying based on that, there's a good chance that there's going to be even more ships in the game, which I'm all in. I mean, I'm all in. And the long-awaited ship rework system with the Tech 3 ships and stuff like that. Yeah, that's also something that I'm looking forward to. I would say that's the main thing I'm looking forward to, since I can definitely see a lot more people flying the low tier ships, and again, I encourage everyone to fly low tier ships over high tier ships. They're just more fun, way more fun. I have more fun in the Maler or a Caracal than I have fun in the cells, and that's a fact. You can just eat. It's a 50 million lost mail. Who cares for 50 million lost mails? I mean, like 50 million lost mails is nothing. And it's peak fun, and you don't even have to be Omega to have a good build and to, you know, to be able to use the ship. So yeah, that's I would say the sweet spot now. I'm not even flying fashion cruisers anymore as I used to. Only when I have to, basically. If I have to fly a Stratius, I'll fly a Stratius. But in most cases, I'm just chilling in a Maler. Nowadays, I'm just mostly chilling in a Maler. Way more fun. Way more fun. And on other ships like that, like a Prophecy or, you know, fun ships like that. That doesn't even need an implant, really. Doesn't even have to have an implant. It just works. And with the new rebalance, hopefully that's going to make the ships more useful. I'm also looking forward for that. I kind of forgot how pretty this game is because I haven't. I'll be honest. I've been very inactive lately. Very inactive. I'm only a fraction of. I have only a fraction of activity now than what I used to have, and we're seeing the scenery, seeing the game, flying through the systems. I kind of forgot how pretty the game is. I always forget that. It's kind of sad because
enemy ships detected.
it is unfortunately the way it is.
We're under attack.
But the game is definitely very pretty. I always like when I travel from one system to the other system. I always kind of got carried away watching the space around me, and thinking to myself, "Wow, I haven't been here in a very long time." And I really hope to change that. I mean, we will see. Done some exploration. That's also one where it kicks in. When I do exploration, I completely. There are some aspects of the game that I kind of forgot how they feel, and just flying around enjoying the game is one of those things for sure. Since in the last months, I've been logging in, hunting, logging out. That's the only thing I've been doing. Basically, PvP was the only thing I was doing, and occasionally some videos that I do with the capitals, new ships, stuff like that. So yeah, I mean, definitely enjoy the game while it's here. And someone asked me what I feel like, what I feel about the game in the last couple. I mean, honestly, now it's better than it used to be. There are things that I don't like, obviously, but the last year and a half, I would say it was pretty good. It was honestly pretty good. Very few things I can complain about. I guess Bombard Tactic Implant is one thing I'm not happy about. Even though I'm using it, I would still love to have all the implants like nerfed significantly. If not a direct nerf, they can actually buff the ships to kind of, you know, counter that, and they can add things. I think they're doing that at the moment. They're working on that at least. So that's one, I guess, good thing. Even if you have like the implant, it's not going to make a difference even if you don't have it. That's the thing where I think they're going to at the moment, and that's going to be quite fun. Since if the implant doesn't make a big difference anymore, it might return to what it used to be, you know. And I really hope that's the case. I really hope they make it so that the implant that doesn't make a big difference if you have or don't have the implant. That's the thing that I can hope. There's going to be always something sticking out for sure. If not the bombard, something else will stick out when the time comes. But that's just how, you know, online gaming works nowadays. There's always something. You cannot have everything perfectly like balanced out. There's always going to be something sticking from the crowd end, and there's always going to be a problem. in one way or the other way. That's just how it is. That's just how it goes. But I'm pretty happy with the Nix. I mean, what's there not to be happy about a 1.5 trillion ISK super capital, right? I guess the price is high, yeah, but the ship is okay. It works really well with the new Hangar mod, and I am so far pretty satisfied with the new modules. They enhance, but at the same time they don't seem to break anything, at least not now. We will see if that will change. But yeah, that would be the Nyx, the king of the DPS. Well, I mean, the king of DPS until Titans arrive. And will Titans be able to one-shot Supercapitals with the Doomsday? That's the main question that I wanna find out. I don't think it will be able to like wipe a super capital in one volley. I don't think that's gonna be the case. I think it will do a lot of damage, but I don't really think it will pop a super capital. Just a bit silly. Maybe, I mean, I'm going to be open to the possibility that it might pop a super capital, but you know,
Autopilot
when
engaged.
Titans arrive, I think super capitals will completely fundamentally change their build in order to be able to tank them. But we will see how that will go. With that being said, hope you guys enjoyed. If you would like to support me, feel free to like and subscribe. And with that being said, stay safe, fly safe, and so I'll see you next time.